together. Merry Christmas. There we go. There we go. I wanted to say Happy Merry New Year or something like that, but that would have been silly, so I didn't. Figure I'll be silly some other time during the message. We are on the tail end of a series called Wonder, and what we've been trying to do is recapture wonder and never lose that wonder. We've been talking about Christmas wonder, and we've been kind of juxtaposing it to holiday wonder because it's really easy to take holiday wonder and transfer it or transition it and put it in place of Christmas wonder, and Christmas wonder is so much more powerful. But there is this thing with holiday wonder that happens that is a lot of fun. And one of the things that is a lot of fun that happens with holiday wonder is, holiday movies and holiday stories and holiday traditions. And one of my favorite holiday movies, cartoons, shows, specials, whatever you want to call it, is this guy. This guy, the Grinch. Love the Grinch. When I was a student minister, we used to do a event at the end of the school year, the Christmas school year, the middle of the year, I guess you would call it, because it was the one time in Atlanta that all of our schools got out at the same time, and it was for Christmas break, and we called it the Grinch Out, and it was an incredible event. We had lots of kids show up. We did lots of things. We stayed up all night. We bowled. We swam. We did games. We had like this rally, and we sang the real Grinch song. And when I say the Grinch, when I'm talking about the Grinch, this was before there was any movies about the Grinch or anything like this. There was only a 26-minute cartoon called The Grinch That Stole Christmas. Now, we would also end the day, I thought it was great, we would end the morning, we would wake up the next morning, or not wake up at all, we'd been up all night, and we would end the event with a breakfast of green eggs and ham. How you like that? That's pretty cool, right? Okay, so here's the thing. The Grinch, this is a strong word, but it's in the book, all right? It's in the original text by Dr. Seuss. Strong word. He said that the Grinch hated Christmas. That's a strong word. He hated it a lot. But I don't think he really disliked Christmas intensely. I think what he disliked was holiday wonder. He disliked the noise. Remember that? It was just the noise. And this brings us back to kind of where we've been in this series. We've been talking about how holiday wonder is full of splendor, but it's nothing but splendor. There's not much past the tinsel and the glitter. There's not something grounded in reality. There's not something of grit there. It's just glitter. Now, I do think the Grinch got something right. There is something threatening about Christmas. And I want to talk to you about that this morning as we wrap up this series. And that is this: the Christmas wonder is full of splendor, but it is threatening. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the threat that Christmas brings. It brings a threat to everyone in this room. And that's unusual to say at the end of Christmas time to say that. But there was one that was so threatened by Christmas, not unlike the Grinch, that he tried to steal it. He tried to stop it. He tried to kill it. And I want us to look at the original Grinch today. And here's the reason why. Because you are meant to thrive, but there's a threat against you. And I do not believe that you or anyone in this room is intended to live under a threat, under the pain of threat. That is being terrorized. In fact, I think that we're all built, every one of us in this room, you are built to thrive. You're built to thrive. And that's the first thing in your follow guide, if you're using your follow guide this morning, is to understand we don't need to live under the pain of threat, but we need to be living lives of thriving, because we're not meant just simply to survive. We're meant to thrive. Now, Blake, why do you say this? I say this because this is the reason Jesus came. This is the reason for the season, really and truly, that you would thrive. That's the reason for the season. And you're saying, well, no, Blake, Jesus is the reason for the season. Well, yes, but why did he say that he came? He came that you might have life. Look at this. He says, I have come that they might have life and have it abundantly. This word for life here, the biblical scholars tell us that this word Zoe, life, means kind of life as God gives it or life as God has it. This means that Jesus said that he came so that you could have life as God has it or life as God intended it. And not only life as God has it or intended it, but have it abundantly. This means like to its fullest measure. That's thriving. But he didn't just simply unground this in reality. The reality is there's a threat to it. And he preceded this statement about the threat. He said the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. That there is someone that wants to stop this life that God intends for you to have. He wants to stop it by killing it or taking it away or by destruction. And you're going to see the original Grinch. You're going to see the original person that the thief works through in the Christmas story right now. We're going to move to it. It's in Matthew 2. It says, now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem, we've looked at this before, but the last time we looked at this, it was through the view and through the lens of these ambitious men called the wise men. Today we're looking through it through the lens of the original Grinch. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. At this point, he's a toddler. This is not baby Jesus. This is toddler Jesus of Judea in the days of King Herod. And behold, wise men came from the east to Jerusalem, and they were asking this question, where is the one who was born King of the Jews? We want to find him. We want to go and worship the one that was born King of the Jews. Let's talk about this guy, Herod, for a minute, and let's talk about how polemical and explosive that question was for Herod. All right, so Herod, we know him as Herod the Great. But we could call him Herod the Grinch, and you're going to see that in just a moment. But history calls him Herod the Great. And if you measure greatness by accomplishment or by resume, he really was. I mean, he was quite great. He was really intelligent as a kid. He was an athlete as an adult, as a young adult. He was really good with the javelin. He was really good with the bow. He caught people's attention. He had some kind of political prowessness because Octavius and Antony goes to the Roman Senate and says, this guy needs to be king of Judea. He needs to be king of Israel. He becomes king of Israel, and he just doesn't just have the position. I mean, he does things. He improves the water system in Jerusalem. He expands the temple in Jerusalem, so he's making things better in Jerusalem for people to live in it. He's placating the religious leaders by expanding the temple that Ezra built, that Nehemiah built the wall around. He does things like he has economic interest along with Cleopatra in the Dead Sea, pulling tar out to build boats, ships. He has got an interest in Cyprus, in copper mines, along with the emperor of Rome. He's great. He's doing great things. He's building new cities. He's expanding the country. New cities are happening in Israel. He's building fortifications like Masada, which is very important. If you know Jewish people, you know how important that place is both emotionally and historically to the Jewish nation, even to this day. And so he's doing all of this stuff. So if you measure greatness by what a resume holds and accomplishments you have, this guy's great. But he was only great at. He wasn't a great guy. He wasn't a great person. History tells us that his favorite wife was this Maccabean princess. He ended her life. Ended her life. Now, I don't know what kind of guy you got to be to say, man, this is my favorite wife. I love her so much, but I love something else more. He was always kind of concerned about someone coming against them. He was kind of concerned, really concerned, paranoid. So he ended the life of not just his wife, but 3 of his sons. And it didn't stop there. So he's not great. And so when these guys roll into town and they ask the question, where's the one who has been born King of the Jews? Not made by Rome, King of the Jews, but the one that God has ordained to be the King of the Jews, the one that birthright is supposed to be the King of the Jews. He was troubled. And when he was troubled, all of Jerusalem was troubled with him. So he says, hey, I hear you, wise men, but I'm going to talk to my people. And so he pulls together his scribes and his Pharisees, the chief priests and the scribes, the people that understand the Jewish religion, not just some kind of Eastern religion, and he begins to consult with them. And this is interesting because they had to be a little brave to even go talk to him, because among the people that Herod had ended their life, he had ended the chief priest's life, who happened to be his brother-in-law, by the way. And so these guys, they've got to be a little scared, and kudos to them because they tell him the truth. They say, well, he's supposed to be, where's the guy supposed to be born? That's what he wants to know. He wants to know where the Messiah is supposed to be born. And so they tell him, they say, hey, listen, he's going to be born in Bethlehem. Not only that, they begin to quote an Old Testament prophet named Micah. But what they do, now this is interesting, catch this. They take this Old Testament prophet named Micah and they combine it with 2 Samuel 5:2. Matter of fact, it's Micah 5:2 and 2 Samuel 5:2. That's just a coincidence, but it makes it very easy to remember. And this is what they quote to him. It says, and you, O Bethlehem, in land of Judah, you are by no means the least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall become a ruler. Herod gets ruler. He gets that, and he hears that. But here's what's interesting is they add this piece from 2 Samuel 5:2, who will shepherd my people. Herod was great, but he was no shepherd. See, a shepherd, he goes into the field with the sheep. The shepherd, he sleeps with the sheep. The shepherd, he protects the sheep in threat of danger to himself from the predators. The shepherd's in the field. He is sleeping with them. He has got a staff, and when the coyotes come, or the wolf comes, or the bear comes, or the lion comes, he puts himself in between them and the sheep. Herod is never going to do that. That's not who he is. He's concerned about his throne and his control. But a shepherd is concerned about the sheep. Do you get this? Do you hear me? Jesus is intensely concerned about you and for you. He will put himself in between you and what comes to harm you. And that's what he says. But when Herod hears this, it troubles him because that's not who he is. And so he secretly meets with the wise men and he ascertains from them what time the star appeared in the sky. This allows him to understand that whoever was born king of the Jews is about 2 to 3 years old. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, hey, you go search diligently. I mean, you search really hard for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word that I too may come and worship him. Reading this for the first time, you think, all right, Herod, you've got on the Jesus train. You're going to do it. You're going to not hold on to your throne for once in your life. You're going to lay it down and you're going to worship and you're going to take the word of these wise men. But that's not what he wanted to do at all. And so they listen to the king, these wise men. They listen to Herod. They go on their way. They find Jesus. We talked about this several weeks ago. There's worship involved. There's falling down involved. There's gifts involved. And then they go to sleep. The wise men do. They rest for the night. And as they're resting for the night, as they're sleeping in the night, they are warned in a dream not to return to Herod. Doesn't say that the dream told them why not to go to Herod, but they just said, don't go to Herod. And so they, being Easterners, pay careful attention to their dreams, and so they head back to whatever modern-day Iraq or Iran was at that time. At the same time, Jesus' stepdad, Joseph, has a dream as well. The wise men depart, and an angel of the Lord appears to Joseph in a dream and says, rise, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to do what? To destroy him. What's the thief do? The thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And that's what he wants to do. And so, wise men go back to the east. Mary and Joseph now goes to Egypt. Do not miss the historic irony in this. Don't miss it. The one who was born to set the captives free is now a refugee in a land of captivity. In the very land that held his people as a slave nation, he now, as a refugee, is there. And he waits there. Joseph keeps him there until Herod passes away. And he meets a very brutal end but not before Herod himself. And I know we've got a young crowd here, so I'll try to do this. This passage, Matthew 2, is one of the most mystical passages in the Bible, but is also one of the most adult passages in the Bible. So Herod, he sees that he's been tricked by the wise men, and he becomes furious. And when he becomes furious, he sets out on another tirade, murderous tirade. Because Jesus is a threat to him. Because Christmas wonder contains a threat. And those that are threatened by Christmas wonder will be a threat to it. Every time. In one way or another, when we're threatened by something, we have a tendency to threaten back. And so Herod, he threatens back. Vain as it may have been, he did not stop Christmas from coming, nor does he stop it from coming today. But there's some insights that we need to gain, and then there's some questions I want you to ask yourself, because here's the reason why. I want you to leave this building today and step into the next year ready to thrive in 2025. All right, I know that sounds a little cheesy, but listen, let's look at these insights, and then I'm going to give you something you're going to have to do on your own. And then you can step into 2025 and thrive, not just survive. So here's some insights that you need to understand. Jesus is a threat. You could extend that sentence on out to say, Jesus is a threat to your throne. I know that we like to keep Jesus as a baby. I don't know how many of you have seen Talladega Nights. I do not recommend the movie, but Ricky Bobby is the key person in that movie, and he likes to keep Jesus as tiny baby Jesus. 6 pounds, 8 ounces, little fleece diaper. We want to keep him there because that little baby Jesus, he is not a threat. But that is not the Jesus that we worship. The Jesus that we worship is probably best illustrated outside of the Scriptures, in the Scriptures exactly, but outside of the Scriptures through the literature of C.S. Lewis and a children's series of books called The Chronicles of Narnia, where the Christ figure in that book, in that series of books, is known as Aslan, a lion. And time again, from the first book to the very last book, people will ask questions like, is he safe? Is Aslan the Christ figure? Is he safe? And Miss Beaver will look back at Lucy, who's asking the question, and say, no, he's not safe. He's dangerous. But he's good. Jesus is not safe. And throughout the Chronicles of Narnia, it comes up again and again. He's not tame. He's not tame. He's good. But he's wild. He's a lion. And you see it in Jesus' life. You see him walk into a temple built for worship, where worship is no longer happening, where commerce is happening, and he goes wild. He flips over tables. He swings a whip. You watch Jesus at the end of this chronicle of his life, at the end of Matthew, look at religious leaders and confront them. Confront them with reckless abandon. Looks at them and he calls them snakes. He looks at them and he says, you guys are like whitewashed sepulchres. You're like whitewashed tombs. Like you look good on the outside, but on the inside, you are full of death. He was not tame, but he was good. So Jesus, he's a threat. And the biggest threat he is to you this morning, he's a threat to your throne. We all have a throne. And I speak metaphorically right now. We all have a throne. It's the place that we put the person or the thing that's most important to us. Jesus wants that throne. He's a threat to that throne. He knows that you're not built for that throne, and he also knows that your life is better if you're not on that throne. And so he's going to be working to get you off of that. And sometimes the way that happens is that our plans don't take priority in God's economy. And that's the second thing to see here is our plans are not priority. They're not the priority. Mary's plans didn't work out. She didn't plan any of that. She didn't plan to get pregnant before she was married. She didn't plan to have to be in Bethlehem to have the child, not around people. And then they spend 2 or 3 years in Bethlehem. They develop a social network. Joseph has got a client base for his carpentry ministry, and all of a sudden, hey, you're a refugee now. Leave. That's not his plan. Wasn't Herod's plan. Our plans are not going to be the priority. Because, you know what? Our plans are always going to be a little bit less than what God has planned for us. He's going to get His glory, and you're going to be changed into the image of His Son by what He works in your life and how you respond to it. Other thing you need to understand is that God's plans, they can be attacked, but they cannot be stopped. Hey, listen. Look. God's will is going to be done. God's will is going to be done in this world. It's going to be done throughout eternity. The real question is the question that you need to ask yourself, that we need to continually be asking ourselves. It's not, is God's will going to be done? The question is, are you going to be a part of it or not? Are you going to be a part of it or not? Because God's plans, absolutely they're going to be attacked. And I'm going to show you 3 ways they're going to be attacked in your life in just a second. But they will not be stopped. Here's how they'll be attacked in your life. They're going to be attacked by the people around you. There will be people around you, unless you live in a cave, there will be people around you that will threaten the plan of God in you and through you. There are people that they somehow have the ability to find your last nerve and then stand on it with all of their weight. Those people, they're going to attack the plan of God in your life. And then there are people that are just going in a different direction than you're going. And you know if you run with them, you will not end up in the place that you want to end up in. They're not bad people, they're just going in a different direction. But then there are people that quite frankly, their morals are not the same as your morals. And if you continue to run with them, you're not going to end up in a place that you don't want to be. You're just going to end up becoming a person you don't want to be in a place you don't want to be. Paul was real clear. He said, bad company corrupts good morals. So the plan of God, it can be attacked by the people in your life. There may be people that you are really trying to help right now. You're holding the rope for them. But you're beginning to realize they're taking advantage of you. You're not helping them. They're not helping you. And you've done all that you can. It's time to drop the rope. Because there's a fine line between reaching out to someone in love and being consumed by their ways while you're reaching out to them. So watch all of that. I want you to think about that as you move into the new year. We'll give you that thinking exercise in just a moment. Another way that the work of God will be attacked in you, it won't come from outside. It won't come from people. It will come from passions within you. It could be something that begins as a hobby and that becomes an obsession. And somehow that obsession works its way onto that throne and becomes the most important thing. It might be your career. It could be something else. It could be a habit that is no longer a habit. It could be an addiction. But there are passions. You need to check your passions. What are you most passionate about? And is what you're most passionate about, is it threatening what you know as best as you can, the plan of God in you and through you? And don't miss that through you part. God wants to do something through you. His ministry through you to others, that's part of the thriving that He calls us to. That's part of the God-like life. There's other things that will happen in your life. Third thing is philosophies will be shared with you. Now, I just want you to be aware of a couple of verses here when we talk about philosophies, because if I say philosophies, what you might think of Spinoza or Socrates or Plato and something like that, and that's not really what we're talking about. Paul writes, see to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy or empty deception, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world, and not according to Christ. That's something that captivates you in your thinking other than Christ. That's Colossians 2:8 if you're taking notes. 2 Corinthians 10:3-5 says this, that though we walk in the flesh, like we're humans, we have this body we walk around, we are not waging war according to the flesh. Like there's a greater value. You understand, like there's nothing you can hold in your hand that's going to last in eternity. Like there's nothing. No hobby, no passion, no person that you can hold in your hand that will last in eternity. And that means that the greater battle in this world is not against flesh and blood. It's against those things that we can't see, for the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments, philosophies, and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God. And what we do, here it is again, that word, captivity, but in such a strong way. Take every thought captive to obey Christ. What are the philosophies that are running in your mind right now? There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of popular philosophies out there, a lot of popular thinking. We could do a whole 30 minutes just on these philosophies. But do you know, the only way you're really going to know for a lifetime of thriving what those philosophies are, it's not so much that you know those philosophies, because they're going to be various and insidious throughout your life. It's that you know this. It's that you know the Bible enough to know that when the philosophies come, you can push against them. So what is it today that threatens the work of God, that attacks the work of God, the plan in you and through you today? Is it people? Is it your passions? Is it some kind of thinking, some kind of philosophy that's running through your mind right now? What I want you to do, and what I think is just a healthy exercise to do, I say want, that's a strong word, but let me encourage you. Before New Year's Day, or maybe sometime on New Year's Day, the next quiet moment when you're tempted to kind of just dive back into the glass and the plastic that you carry around in your pocket, don't. And just dive into these words right here, these words that we've given everybody. If you didn't get a flyer when you walked in, please pick one up on the way out. And here are these questions at the end. Holding on to Christmas wonder in 2025. We don't want to lose our wonder. And we don't want to lose our wonder in December, but we certainly don't want to lose our wonder in January. And one of the ways you can do that is just simply ask 2 questions and break them down. Does everybody get this piece of paper? Take a moment and look at this piece of paper. Now, I just want us to read through them as we wrap up in the next 2 minutes. Where is Jesus' lordship? Where lordship means whoever's Lord is the one that's sitting on the throne of your life. Where's that threatened right now in your life? Where's the lordship of Jesus threatened in your life? Are there people you need to stop running with? And then there's that little word there, conversely. Who are the people that you need to start running with? That's what conversely means. Who are the people who are going to sharpen you? Iron sharpens iron. So one man, so one woman sharpens another. Are there passions you need to stop running after? You know, those of us who are married, you're going to be given a privilege from time to time because your spouse is going to look at you and they're going to say, they're going to say things like this: I don't like who you are when you hang out with them. And they might say something like, I'm not sure I like who you are when you spend so much time there, because when you spend so much time on that hobby or that pursuit, you seem to come back different than who you are. So who are those people? What are those passions? And conversely, what is the passion you need to ignite in your life? And igniting a passion in your life is a lot like starting a fire with a flint stone. Not the cartoon character, I'm talking about little flint. It takes a lot of work. It doesn't happen instantly. You have to work at it for a while. But what are the passions that you need to start in your life? To know, hey, if I start that, I'll become the person that I want to be. The philosophies, the only way that you're going to really be able to consistently push back on the philosophies that are going to come into your mind, that are going to move you away from Christ, is spending time in this Word. And that's why I'm going to say, hey, you need to be here next Sunday. You need to be in a Bible study. You need to be spending time alone with God daily. That's the same message every week, every week. Be here on Sunday. Be in a Bible study. Spend time alone with God. Serve somewhere. Last question. Because I want you to write this down in some piece of paper, some book, some notebook, some journal, and come back to it this time next year. Where do you need to trust God most in your life right now? What's the thing right now that has got you sideways, that has you sideways? That has you maybe pushing you to pursue a relationship you shouldn't pursue. Pursue a passion that you shouldn't pursue because you're going to become less than who you want to be anyway. A philosophy that's running into you. That's those areas that you need to trust Him with. Is it health? Is it a hurt? Is it because someone's hurt you? Is it a relationship? There is life on the other side of the point of trust. There's life on the other side of the point of trust. But there's life as God meant for you to have it on the other side of whatever it is that's pushing back on you right now. And it's not just life as God wants it for you. It's life to its fullest measure. John 10:10. Pray with me. Father, there are people here this morning and they're on the toes of their feet and they are ready to move into the new year. I pray that we would all be numbered among those people that look aggressively at the future, ambitiously. And Lord, I pray that whatever it is that's pushing against us right now, like we know there's a relationship we need to step away from. I pray that you'd give us the courage to do that. Like we know there's a passion right now that is burning down the time that we should be spending with our daughter or our son or our spouse or you. Lord, I pray we'll push away from it. I pray that we'll take some time before the new year or on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, when things just kind of get quiet, that we wouldn't dive into glass and plastic, but we would dive into you for just a few moments and ask the questions. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.